Yo, welcome to the excellent podcast. I'm your cinematic host, STEFON WHITAKER, the head honcho, the founder, the owner, the operator, the CEO of SW Films. SW Films. And welcome, guys, to 2023. This is long overdue. I have been gone. The podcast has been gone for quite a long time. Man, there's so much to talk about, but I just want to say first and foremost, welcome, guys, to all of the listeners who've been a part of the excellent podcast for the year or so that we've been around, as well as thank you to everyone who's new listening. Thank you to old and new. We appreciate you. I appreciate you tenfold, and just thank you for being here listening to me. For the new folks here that may not know about the Excellent Podcast, the Excellent Podcast is a interview-based podcast where me, the owner and founder of SW Films, which is a film production company, I interview folks. I interview people who have excellence built into their business, to their creativity, to really anything, or just to have a conversation about creative stuff, film stuff, entrepreneurial things, stuff like that. This is an interview-based podcast, and we've had some amazing guests here in the first leg, I'll say, of the podcast. And I just want to thank all of those guests who are here. Yes, it has been a very long time. This particular episode, I don't even want to say if it's going to be short or long, but I do have a few things I would like to speak with you guys to catch you guys up on, because it has been a long time since I was here. I want to say the last episode I dropped, it was an interview with Journey Be the Reason, a female rapper from the Bay Area. Really great interview. That interview got a lot of good highlights. A lot of people definitely paid attention to that interview, and she shared it a lot. So thank you, Journey. But that episode came out, I want to say almost a year ago, which is kind of wild. I don't know, guys. There's been so much that has happened since that interview, just in my real life, which is basically what I want to talk about, and everything. So yeah, let's get going. All right, we talking seasons. Okay, that's the name of this pod. We talking seasons. Hiatus. All right, let's talk about the hiatus. First and foremost, I guess before I even talk about that, let me just talk about who I am for the people who may be new listening to this pod. I'm STEFON WHITAKER. I'm a film director, film producer, screenwriter, filmmaker, entrepreneur living in the Bay Area. I'm from Indiana, and I have a production company, SW Films, that I've been running for 5 years now. That's another huge thing. Last year, 2022, was 5 years of SW Films, which is kind of insane. It had me very happy, but also very sad and depressed for a while, because holy shit, it's 5 years. But anyway, yes, I started this podcast to replace what I had as a vlog channel for a while. So anyone who's watching this on YouTube, you guys know that I did have Stefon's vlogs for a while. And I replaced that with the podcast, just because vlogging I couldn't do much of all the time, and I kind of strayed away from it, and it was just always a hassle to edit the vlogs, opposed to always editing, not opposed, but to also edit along with the podcast, or excuse me, the regular projects I was doing for clients and personal stuff. So I took my time away from that. So I started the podcast because it made a lot of sense. But one thing that I kind of did with the podcast that I did with the vlog is that I hesitated, or I had such a huge gap in between episodes, which, that is tough to build an audience like that. It's tough to give consistency like that. So it has screwed me, I think, in the vlog channel, and the podcast, I don't want to be the same thing. Of course, the podcast is a slow growth. It's only been out for a year. This is something that I'm purely doing for enjoyment, but also to eventually scale, to build up a fan base, and to get really nice guests on here. This is an opportunity for me to just speak with like-minded folks, or even people who I don't really know, who maybe not like-minded. I just want to have interesting conversations about excellence and things that maybe aren't excellent or whatever. I just want to get to know people, know creatives, know entrepreneurs, and have a good conversation to put on the platform, right? So my hiatus, I don't even know where to begin, man. I've done a whole bunch of shit since that hiatus. I would say I'll kind of start, I guess, maybe in the summertime because I believe the Journey Be Reason interview happened in like April, came out in April. But what I did is I was working a lot for one. I work in the freelance film industry for people who may have forgotten, but I do work in the freelance film industry as well as running SW Films, which is, purely freelance too. But what I mean by freelance film industry is that I'm working as a production assistant or I'm working as a first assistant director, not really a first, but assistant director just in general sometimes, which mainly I'm just PAing a lot. I've definitely been given the opportunity to AD a lot of things, but last year in 2022, I only AD two things. First AD for Nike, which is almost a year ago, and crazy. That was like one of my favorite experiences of all time. The biggest job I feel like I've personally done. And I second AD'd something with my cousin Hilton Day, who is usually known as a first AD. That was pretty interesting. But anyway, I was working a lot. I was working a whole bunch and I kind of got caught up in the work. But also, one of the biggest things that really happened last year is I had a premiere for my short film, my second short film under SW Films called Black Rose Wanders. If you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify or anywhere you listen, I'm going to make sure to link that below because that was huge. I went back home to Fort Wayne, Indiana, my birth city. And we had a premiere at the Cinema Center. And that was really cool. That was an experience. It was a first time thing. It was very, while it was very rewarding in some ways, and I mean some ways, it was very humbling in another. I don't really know how to explain that, but like, I mean, I do. Humbling in the fact that, it was an event that I paid a lot for and did not recoup barely any money for it. And a lot of that has to do with, I think, the circumstance that I was given, but also, the theater itself. I'm not going to talk bad about Cinema Center, but I will say the Cinema Center ain't shit. That's what I'll say. Was not able to, recoup any money from just selling tickets and things of that nature. So, yeah, that was humbling in a sense, but also was humbling is that the fact that it wasn't like a gigantic sellout. We sold out the ticket situation. It wasn't like that. Really, it was just like my immediate family and my close friends, a few of my close friends and a couple other folks in the community that I've worked with, brought on to projects and stuff like that. So regardless, it was a cool experience. I had a lot of fun. Awesome experience, and I'm glad that I did it. And I think it gets me ready and prepared for how I want to go about running the next few premieres I have for these next few movies that I'm going to do. So yeah, I'm interested for sure. No, interested. I don't know why I said that. That was amazing. Let's just say that was a cool experience. All right. That was one thing that I did. But when I was out there back home in Indiana, I stayed home for about a year, about a month, because I had a couple other things that were going on at the time. I basically was going to be having something happening almost every single week that I was there in Indiana, but not everything happened. But the two big things that happened was the premiere, and then I also directed and shot a commercial for CART. My homie Dylan, who's been on the podcast, I'll make sure to link that as well if you haven't seen that. It was a really cool podcast. And what was cool kind of about that podcast is he was talking about starting up CART again. And CART is his on-demand moving business. We shot a new commercial for them, and we did it was pretty cool. We did like a main spot that was about a minute and some change, and then we did two small spots that kind of cover two of their different kind of individual moves, their individual services that they do. So that was really cool. It was cool because I had a nice size skeleton crew. A lot of it was very, kind of on the cuff. A lot of different things popped up, a lot of talent, quote unquote, people, regular folks who were going to be in the commercial just never showed up, or simply they just, dropped out so many times, and then we couldn't find a perfect moving truck. And I don't mean like a box truck, but just like a pickup truck. We couldn't find a good one to use. It was a lot of things that had to do with financial stuff. Let's just say that. It had to do a lot with financial stuff. But Dylan and his almost wife, by the time you're looking at this, he's going to be getting married soon, which we'll talk about all that later. That's going to be crazy, the future. But yeah, it was such an awesome experience last year. And I believe that I created what to me has been my best commercial thus far, in terms of for SW Films. It's been the best commercial that I've directed and I've shot and I've edited. And I had a great time working with that crew, a great time working with the company. Of course, it's my best friend's business. So we had a really good time. It was really fun. Another thing that was supposed to happen, which didn't happen. I was supposed to go and be a guest, like do a lecture at a film festival in Memphis, Tennessee. Didn't happen because it was basically some bullshit. That's as much as I can say. It's basically some bullshit. I'm not going to get into the complexities and the story of that because that story is dumbass long. But I did tell it. I did tell some of that story on Kelsey Martin, my homegirl, my dear homegirl, an amazing creative Kelsey Martin, OG Killer Kels, on her podcast, The Vent. I did go on there. I was a guest on there. I was the last guest on that particular podcast of hers. And I did tell that story a little bit. So that was also something that happened during that time as I was a guest on another podcast. So that was really cool. And then after that, the last thing I did that last week in Indiana was Brandon Spalding, one of my best friends in my group. He lives in St. Louis, or he lives in that general area, St. Louis and Illinois area. And we went to go visit him for the first time for 4th of July, and that was really fun. Had a great time with the main group of homies from back home. Really cool. After that, I would just kind of jump ahead a little bit. I went to LA. I got asked to work on a movie in LA. And this is my second time working in LA, right? My very first time, I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast, maybe I have, but I did get a chance to work with on Family Ties, the music video from Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar. One of the biggest, if not the biggest highlight in my career, because that's literally me meeting one of my idols, the people who've like motivated me so much, even in film. But this is my second time. And my second time was this long movie called Billy Knight. It was like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something. And it had a lot of stars in it. It had Al Pacino, it had Charlie Heaton, Diana Silvers, and a lot of other people I don't want to spoil, but very let's say it was a very interesting time. LA in general, man. Let me just talk about LA in general. LA in general was a very interesting time. Because I was out there for a month and some change, and I got to experience like a whole new life in LA, honestly, because it's very different from the Bay. The traffic is absolutely trash, and everything about LA I just was different. You know what I mean? But in terms of just where life was at that time, I mean, I stayed with my homie Semi Cole. Shout out to him. Love to have him on the podcast one day. We might have to. He's going to be here soon, so I might have to do a little thing on the podcast with him. But anyway, stayed at his place for a majority of the time. But while I was out there, and I'm not gonna get too much into my personal business, but I had found myself in a new relationship, which I am loving a lot of right now, and has been very beneficial for me, and I think beneficial for her as well. So that also happened. I'm have found myself in that while I was in LA. I'm doing the long distance thing. She's in LA. I'm here in the Bay. There you go. But LA was something. LA was a lot of mental and personal individual reflection, because there was a lot of things I had to deal with, I think physically, and then, a bit emotionally while being in LA. Specifically, I think at that time, just, man, I think it was just more of like, physically it was tough because I was not living in my apartment. I had to stay at my friend's place. And, it just wasn't, I didn't get to like really be able to make food how I want. There's just certain comfortability things that I was just like not big on while I was out there in LA. So, I went to the gym once with Semi. I went on a hike once. It wasn't as beneficial as I could have made it, in terms of just physically being out there, going out and trying to work out, exploring. I did explore a lot. I did explore a lot. I went to a lot of places that I never would think I would have been in LA at that time. I checked out like, Malibu, Santa Monica. I kind of checked out downtown. I was definitely down in downtown LA, stuff like that. I was out there. Um, I didn't check out Compton or none of them places. I was staying like near Hawthorne, Inglewood area, but I seen a lot of that. I kind of passed by what you call it, Crenshaw. Rest in peace to Nipsey. Like, I explored, but a lot of times I got to see a lot of stuff because of work. We were mainly working in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. It was a crazy experience. Let's just say that. I'm not gonna get into the details of that movie, but man, that was a crazy shoot. One I'll never forget for sure. And it was an awesome crew. The LA crew I really liked. I know there's like kind of been that opinion that LA folks kind of suck to work with. Is a very dog eat dog type situation, and I understand from a certain standpoint, but sorry, I need to take a drink of water. Fuck. I understand from that standpoint a little bit, but the crew was really cool. A lot of my particular crew, the production team, AD team, we were all mostly from the Bay. My cousin Hilton was the first AD. My homie Dom, who's a homie of Hilton's, second AD. A couple other folks, Sabrina Moda, who's from the Bay as well. Like, we had a really great crew, and I had like an all female PA crew. I was the key PA on that, but we had all female, all women PA crew. It was really cool. A lot of great folks: Sabrina, Tessie, Alyssa, Alexis, damn Zoe. There's a whole bunch of people. Shout out to all those folks. Right, it was great having working with them. But yeah, I had a very interesting experience in LA. I almost don't know how I could really talk about it now, because like LA was just LA, and because of my relationship situation, my relationship, I don't want to say situation, but really, I do find myself in LA a lot more now. Anyway, though, to continue on the story, the timeline, right? I went to Colorado right after LA, and was a much needed break, a solo trip. My very first solo trip, I want to say. I've never really been on a solo trip, but it was really amazing. I had a amazing time in Colorado. Colorado is one of my favorite places of all time. I almost actually shot something, and I may release it. I might release it. I might just edit it because fuck it. But I shot like a little bit of a vlog when I was in Colorado, kind of just to show my experience. And I might do like a little throwback episode for you guys, because we got to put content out there, man. But it was an amazing time. I got to drive one of my favorite, my aspired materialized kind of things is a Ford Raptor. I got to drive that, and it was so fucking fun. It was amazing. I had a great time. I love that truck. And I want to own one, honestly, but obviously. But it was a lot of fun driving that in Colorado. I had a great time. I hiked in Boulder, traveled through Denver, hiked in Aspen. Really fun time. I got to see my friend Kibwe, who lives out there currently now. Kibwe, who has a great podcast, the Empower You podcast, he is like a legit podcaster, and I just want to say it was great talking to him, and I definitely want to have him on the podcast this year. He's doing some amazing things, especially in this podcast space. But yeah, I had a great time in Colorado. That was a much needed trip. I can't wait to go back. I'll probably go back with my girl this year to do more like a fitness trip. Do something around fitness, doing a lot of hikes, doing a lot of, I went to the what you call that place, the Red Rocks Amphitheater, and there's hella people in there just working out, climbing all those mini stairs. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it was interesting working in there, or going in there, when they're not having like a concert or an event. Really cool. So that was cool. Then after that, came home. A huge monumental thing that happened last year for sure is that my mom and my brother Roosevelt, they both came and flew to California from Indiana. One of the first times that my brother or my mom has flown in like a long time, and they flew out here for Hilton, my cousin Hilton's wedding. That was huge. It was huge because Hilton's getting married, another cousin on my mom's side getting married, but also my mom and Roosevelt, my brother, they flew out here. That was huge. That was really huge. They got to be in my apartment. I got to show them San Francisco, like the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff like that. Like something that's really dear to me was showing them some of these things. And it was so amazing. And it was just amazing to have all this family here. We had lots of family here for the wedding, and it was such a good damn wedding too, man. It was a great wedding. I had an awesome time. Shout out to Hilton and Danielle. It was so cool. So that was awesome. And then after that wedding, I went back to LA to go to the LA Auto Show, which was also a hella fun. Went there with my girl and my homie Andrew and his girl, and that was great. Man, we had a blast, had a fun time. The LA Auto Show is awesome. I got to hop into the new Raptor R, the V8 Raptor. So that was really cool. I just had a great time out there, and then after that, getting to the end of everything, I worked on another movie, a movie out in the Bay Area, called Thirsty, which is about a white woman who runs for mayor of Oakland. Pretty interesting premise. Once again, a crazy production, but I did it because of my homies. Semi and Andre. They were both the first and second AD, and I was the key PA, kind of playing like a second AD. And it was fun, man. I had a great time. But okay, let me say that loosely. It was fun because of the homies that we had on the shoot, but it was also a ridiculous shoot at times for sure. but it was still a memorable thing from the last year, especially because it also kind of, it dealt with some pretty some interesting times happened. I had a cousin who passed away like during the shoot, towards the end of the shoot. A lot of Billy Knight and Thirsty. There's like two situations where I've had to like go home from the shoot because of like either a physical thing or like, I think just like family stuff. So rest in peace to Keon, my family. But that's where the hiatus has been, guys. I haven't had a whole lot of time to actually shoot the podcast. Obviously, I brought up a lot of things, and there's so much other work that happened besides those two particular movies and these trips and stuff. But I just haven't had enough time. So as far as where we end off on this podcast, it was the interviews, right? And I thought about something towards the end of last year that made me think about how I need to start pushing out these podcasts, because I understand this is super important to you guys, but it's super important to you guys, but it's also super important to me because this podcast is something I want to build up. I want it to be something that, I want it to have a place in culture, right? Like I want these interviews to be, special for somebody. I'm big on watching interviews, whether it's Breakfast Club or just regular interviews, or listening to podcasts like Gary V's or the Brilliant Idiots or, Joe Budden podcast, or just a bunch of different podcasts, the MF, motherfucking CEO. Like I've been listening to a lot of these and watching these different interviews. And, I just want the Excellent Podcast to have a space like that for folks, So this is a new update. All right. The episode is We Talking Seasons. And I want to talk to y'all about seasons, right? Now, one of the things is seasons has always been a very interesting concept to me when it comes to this type of media, whether it's podcasts or vlogs. But people do seasons. And I think they do that maybe because of a more, not mandatory hiatus, but in a way. And honestly, something that I should have done, even with the vlog channel back then, is I should have introduced seasons. And this, guys, this is officially season 1. I know I put out like almost 12 interviews in however many episodes of the podcast, back in like 2022 through 2021, whatever. But guys, this is season 1. This is officially season 1 of the Excellent Podcast. And I say that because there's so many people that I can't wait to interview. And there's so many different, topics and things that I want to talk about, and I think it's important to aim this as the very first season of the pod. What you can call those other episodes before then, we can call those just like the preseason. We'll say that's the preseason. All right. So this is officially season 1. Now, what is in season 1? Season 1 is going to mean this, right? It's going to be 10 to 15 episodes in each season. 10 to 15 episodes. And that means 10 to 15 interview episodes for each season. That is incredibly important. That is what that is. And specifically enough, that means that these solo pods don't count for my 10 to 15 interviews at all for the season. So there's a lot of, probably solo pods that I'll be doing about very specific topics, as you guys will see in the next pod. But very specific topics I want to talk about, and I actually want to try to make those specific pods as brief as possible. But I don't know. I like to talk. I like to rant. So that's going to be, a task. But yeah, guys, this is season 1 for the podcast. And there's going to be some amazing guests this year. A lot of people who I wanted to interview around the beginning of the podcast as well, back when I launched it. But I think now a lot of these pods are going to be very interesting. I really want to interview a lot more filmmakers here in the Bay Area, in my industry, but I also want to interview a lot of amazing creatives and, back home, but also just, kind of take a little bit of a different approach into interviewing some of these folks. I'm big on, getting to kind of know them personally a little bit. I like to know a little bit of, I don't want to say trauma because that's crazy, but I like to know about, obstacles. And I like when people delve into like real specifics about those obstacles. So, I can't wait, guys. We have some amazing guests coming soon, and I'm excited just for you guys to get to know about them. And I'm excited to get to know about them too. There's definitely a few folks that I don't know too much of that I can't wait to interview. So, welcome to season 1. We talking seasons. It's going to be a fun one, guys. It's going to be a fun one. Now in terms of when the seasons end, how long of a break in between are the seasons going to happen? I think one thing that I did, and I don't want to give too much of my behind the scenes sauce of what the fuck I was doing with the podcast, but I pre-recorded a lot of episodes when I first launched. And I think that's what I want to do for each season. Right. In particular, this is not a yes, this is recorded and I've edited and you guys are seeing it, listening to it right now. But a lot of these pods are going to be happening kind of as time goes. And that's what's important. I want to launch this. I wanted to launch this, here in February because, I just wanted to gain back a little bit of visibility for the podcast and continue to build upon it. Right. And we have a slew of episodes coming out after this. So, in terms of when these episodes will come out, guys, and I said it before on the pod when I first launched it, but I'm going to try to aim, and I'm going to say try to, because my schedule is going to be, shifting up a lot pretty soon, especially during the spring and summertime. I have a feeling it's going to get a little crazy, but I definitely would like to put out at least 3 episodes in a month, 2 to 3. I think that's doable. So, I think that's doable. I have days that I take off, and the days that I take off, I should be doing stuff with the pod and giving opportunities for you guys. Sorry, there was a cut here in the camera. Giving opportunities for you guys to just listen to the pod and enjoy the podcast. So, seasons like I said, 10 to 15 episodes. I'm going to try to put out 2 to 3 episodes a month. And yeah, man, I hope that y'all just enjoy what we have going on at the podcast, right? Now, last things to kind of tie up here, but I want to talk about something that I've been doing that I launched for SW Films last year on the 5-year anniversary, November 26th of SW Films. But I talked about phase 1, the launch of phase 1 for SW Films. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more, even in its own episode. But phase 1, what that means, right? Phase 1, I launched it simply just because I wanted to have more organization into the type of projects that I wanted to do, that I wanted to create. And what I mean by projects, I mean mainly films, short films, even features. I wanted to just have a little bit more organization, but I also wanted to have organization in the type of projects that I'm putting out. And I think that's rather important. And phase 1, I've spoken a lot about in some ways, and I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more so with I want to say just with SW Films instead of the podcast, a lot of, but I will say, guys, like phase 1 is about emotional shedding. In the 3 years, I've been living here in California for 3 years, and I would say that one of the biggest things that I've like dealt with in the 3 years, a lot of has been just simply just a lot of emotional buildup, trauma. And I think a lot of people can understand and feel me because we went through 2020, and we're in 2023. And it's even interesting here in 2023, and 2022 is interesting. There's just a lot of shit that's happened in the world, but in my individual life, there's been a lot that's happened. So a lot of what I'm talking about in these movies for phase 1, these projects for phase 1, a lot of it has dealt with what's happened in the 3 years and even, beyond in the past. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk more about the excellent or talk about phase 1 for SW Films, and just you guys will be hearing a lot more about it, especially as these projects come into light. And right now there's just a lot of different things for the future of SW Films that's happening. And I'll be talking more about that in the future episodes, but there's a lot of things that I've been planning for the company, just because there's just so much things that I feel like I need to catch up on, but there's also just, it's time to really get out there and plant my foot, as the film director, as the owner, the operator, the director, the producer of SW Films. So I'm pushing to do a lot more of that this year. In a perfect world, I would love to stop being a PA. My neighbor's downstairs making noise. Fuck. I'm gonna make this quick, but I would love to stop being a PA and just being able to direct freelance in the freelance film space, and also run SW Films how I plan to run it, and just to keep it growing. I said it on Twitter a while back, but I said that SW Films growth and directing in the freelance film space, as well as being inspired and learning, those are my only priorities in this industry. That's it. If I can find a way to give back for myself and to grow the company and to direct and to just be inspired and learn, that's it. That's all. That's my priority. Making money is also a priority. That's unfortunately not even unfortunate. I don't know. However you wish to look at it, it is a priority for life. And me, as a guy who's had so many financial woes, so many, literally for me, it's just like, hey, that is a huge priority as well. So I'm not going to stop PAing today, but I want to grow more opportunities for me. And every single year there's been huge opportunities that have come my way. So I'm ready to just accept whatever God and the universe throws my way. So I'm all here for it. But man, guys, I think that's it for the pod today. I think that's it. I think that's kind of what I want to talk about. I think that's as much as I can throw y'all's way. But I just want to say once again, thank you guys for just being able, still rocking with me. Thank you for still rocking with me on the pod. And thank you for just, continuing to support my business as a whole for SW Films. I highly appreciate it, and I love you guys for it. Welcome to season 1 of the Excellent Podcast. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys have a great day doing whatever you're doing in the world. And I'll see you guys on the next episode, man. See you on the next episode. Love.